two brothers. We call them, for our understanding, Reuven and Shimon. They married, and for our understanding, as Reuven married Tamar, for example, and Shimon is the surviving brother after Reuven passed with no children. He's the one who is about to levirate, to do yibum to that sister, Tamar. It's a period between, let's say, burial, etc., all the arrangement, and him acting in a manner of marriage. It's called, by our language, zika, meaning there is some attachment, but it's not married yet. Now, she is called, Tamar is called Shomeret Yavam, meaning she is in the waiting period for her potential redeemer, the brother-in-law, who is about to marry her or do chalitza to her. Now, she have no children, but for our understanding, she owns properties. And the question we have here is, what rights the brother-in-law have over that properties or those properties? Why it's a serious question? We call it in Ivrit ma'amad mishpati, which means what exactly the law of justice, the right she have and he have. Because if they are married by halacha, by Jewish law, even she owns something, the fruit of her property, as we explained yesterday, the husband has the right to that fruits of the property, as long as they are staying in marriage. If they divorce, or cases of widows, that's a different story. In some cases, it returned to her. Now, because it's, how do you say it in Yiddish? Nishtahir, nishtaher. She's not married, but she's not detached from him. We call it Shomeret Yavam, and we ask what to do. It's like we're moving from Even HaEzer to Choshen Mishpat. We're beginning with the issue of Hilchot Ishut, the interaction between the husband and wife, and then we end up by issues of Yerusha, which means the inheritance. Why? Because if she passed at the time being between the time that the husband passed and the action that's supposed to take place of Yibum from her brother-in-law, then you have an issue of Miksei Milog and Miksei Tzon Barzel, which we are going to discuss at length, hopefully. Miksei Tzon Barzel, meaning it's a property or properties that belong to her, meaning, for example, the nedunya, something that she bring with her when they getting married. She can incorporate that in the ketubah, or she's not. She have the right. You basically evaluate that and put it in a ketubah, as the Gemara tells us in the Tractate Ketubot, which we're going to study on page 80. And then it's written in that ketubah that the husband commit himself if he divorced her, or he will pass away while she is still alive, she received from him the value of all those properties that it's written at the time that the ketubah was written, regardless if they go high or lower. Meaning that if it was a interest or the properties raise its values, the husband enjoy that, versus if it's lower, he need to complete the difference, the husband need to complete the difference to his wife. Meaning, if she brought the property value, let's say 300,000, and now it's a 260, he, upon divorcing, needs to give her the difference. this is basically an estimate that made prior to the wedding, and that meaning it can be expensive or raise its price like barzel, meaning it's she hold it like an iron, literally speaking. So it means she hold the value regardless to the circumstance. So the sages use the word tzon barzel because in those days the shepherd of the flock, the tzon, used to receive a livestock, a large amount of flocks, and the shepherds commit themselves to that amount. So let's say in those days, if a person is a shepherd, let's call him Reuven, is a shepherd, you receive 200. It's not just 200 sheep. You receive also evaluation of them. So if something happened, he is responsible. So that's the first category. Remember, I'm going to use that word, Miksei tzon barzel. So just remember the meaning. The second one, which we were going to visit that a lot, God willing, in the Tractate Yevamot, in the Tractate Gittin, and in the Tractate Sotah too, it's called Miksei Milog. What is Miksei Milog? Miksei Milog, this is the properties that the woman bring with her upon or about when she's getting married, and she incorporated them within the Ketubah, and or other properties that come out after they get married from her. Give me an example. If she inherited, so let's say she inherited from outside of that after she got married. So listen carefully. As long as they are married, the husband has the right over the fruits of that properties, which means the assets belongs to her, the fruits, he can derive the fruits of that. If they divorced, or if the husband is no longer among the living, it's returned to her regardless if the properties raise its value or reduced its value. And the husband has no responsibility whatsoever if something stolen or lost for that property. The term of Miksei Milog, meaning because is in Ivrit the same as someone who moleg. Moleg meaning moret. It's like you have an animal, let's say Elliot have a horse, and he cleaned the horse. So while he's cleaning the horse, how do you say it? He's moret. He remove all the stuff on the body, but the animal remain the same. So all the hairs and all the things are removed. How do you call it? You take a heavy metal, a heavy something, and you brush, right? Yeah. So while you brush, whatever is on the animal, good or bad, you remove it, but the animal remains the same. That's the meaning of the term milog, which means this Mishnah used a little different term, but it's the same. It's called nechasim hanichnasim veyotzim ima, which means regardless to her circumstance, if she is staying married, divorced, if she divorced or became widow, she carried those properties with her regardless. Now, we're going to also discuss a little bit the prenuptial agreement, especially upon second marriage, and general dinei Yerusha, the law of inheritance. So we are now on page 38 of the Mishnah. So far we said that Tamar, meaning the widow, we call her just Tamar, she have rights over the properties, but Shimon, the about to be a husband, which at this point he is Yavam and she is Yevamah, he is, in our language, partially husband, she is partially his wife. But it's not a total husband-wife by our term, meaning we discuss here law. Shomeret Yavam, Tamar, who is waiting for her Yavan, meaning she have no children and that's the reason, and the only reason, that Shimon will be soon her husband. Either he will be her husband, or, listen carefully, he can release her. But they have zika bond, they have something to do between them, but they are not married yet. Shenaflu la nechasim. All of a sudden it turns that she received $5 million property, inheritance from her late father. And the late father doesn't have a son. She's the only daughter. Or if somebody gave her a gift, she won a lottery, right? So now the key point Rashi said is she received that only after Reuven, her late husband, passed. שנפלו לנכסים מודים בית שמאי ובית הלל, both בית שמאי and בית הלל agree upon, שמוכרת ונותנת וקיים, that she can sell and give it according to her wishes. Meaning, this is basically the same Mishnah in Tractate Tubot, page 80. So over there is a full discussion of process of rights, especially from the time that she is part of her father, husband, independence, divorce, etc. All those different circumstances and what exactly the rights she had. So here we say that she have full rights, and that's even Beit Hillel agreed to do whatever she wishes. So according to that Hava Amina, to this stage, we're not speaking about Nechasim bebeit Ba'ala, which means property that used to belong to Reuven and Tamar. We're not talking about that. We are speaking about something that just came out right at this moment. So both agree, Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, she can do whatever she wants. Now we are talking about another painful subject, which is the inheritance, which means this is something that either belonged to her or it's subjugated to her in a certain term and condition. Now you see 4 different avenues, Arba'a Pshatim, 4 different avenues. And that's the beginning of the disputation. Meta. Tamar passed away. She passed away before we know if she's going to be Yevamah, meaning a wife of Shimon, if she's going to receive Chalitza and she is out of this. She passed. Ma ya'aseh biktubata. What rights Shimon had over her Ktubah? So we talk about several categories. Those of you who have the privilege to seek Ktubot, there is a concept of Ktubah itself, the commitments, and you have the Tosefet. Tosefet is whatever the husband wish to add more than the minimum payment. The Ktubah, it's the commitment the husband have to his wife, that if he divorced her or if he passed while she's alive, she have that whatever agreed, meaning the Tosefet, the additional that he had to do. David saw it at my daughter's wedding, that my son-in-law, he gets so excited and he have very large size. Anyway, that's called Tosefet, in addition. But it's also Nichsei Tzon Barzel. We all remember what is Nichsei Tzon Barzel, right? The property that she is bringing with her, etc., etc. Okay. ובנכסים הנכנסים ויוצאים עמה. That's Miksei Milog. You remember Miksei Milog? The properties that she carries all the times versus the fruits that the husband enjoy and have the rights as long as they are staying in marriage. Otherwise he takes. But remember, Miksei Tzon Barzel, the husband needs to return to her the difference if they get divorced. Miksei Milog, it's her, and the evaluation of Miksei Milog is nothing to do with the husband if they get divorced. Okay? So both is Beit Shammai said, Beit Shammai אומרים יחלוקו יורשי הבעל עם יורשי האב. Listen to the situation. Reuven married Tamar. He passed away. Shimon, his brother, was about to either do Yibum or Chalitza with Tamar. Tamar passed away, and Shimon passed away, and the children of Shimon from his first wife want to possess the right over the properties. So here Beit Shammai comes and said, it's not so simple. Why? Because the father of Tamar, who is no longer among the living, inherited it to her, but if there are other people who have the rights to that properties, they can have some claim. So therefore Beit Shammai said the property should be split between the other inheritors of the late father of the late Tamar, and the other part of the property will go to the children of the late Shimon, who is the late potential husband of Tamar. Okay? And that applies to Miksei Milog. Now, Yoshei Abal, in general term, because we're going to discuss it several times here, it's the people who connected to the Yavam. Yoshei Av is the people from Tamar's family. Now the problem is, she is considering Safek Ishto. She is not his wife. She's maybe his wife, maybe not. Because of that maybe, Beit Shammai come in and said, as far as the Miksei Milog, we split. Beit Hillel omrim, Beit Hillel divided to three different ways. So it's not the two, they divided to three. Okay? Nechasim, Miksei Tzon Barzel. If someone don't remember, raise your hand. Otherwise, we continue with that term. All right? Miksei Tzon Barzel bechezkatan. Bechezkatan, meaning you have here two different avenues between Rashi and Tosfot. What exactly the meaning of Miksei Tzon Barzel? So Rashi basically have several pshatim, and Tosfot elaborate on that a lot in very short. Tosfot said that it's bechezkat Yorshei Abal, that it's part of the inheritors of the husband, and therefore Gam Ktuba bechezkat Yorshei Abal. Also the Ktuba, it's part of the chezka, with a potential, and therefore is there. Now, which means because you have a safek, they should. He says that Tzon Barzel remain by them. Now, Tosfot basically said you cannot compare between the story in Baba Batra to here. The Baba Batra in 158, there is a disputation if it belongs to the husband, the inheritors of the husband, or the inheritance of the wife. Anyway, Nechasim v'yotzim ima, which is Miksei Milog. Remember Miksei Milog? The property is that as long as he is alive, he can drive the fruits, and he is not responsible for any ups and downs in the value of the property. Bechezkat Yorshei Av. So according to Beit Hillel, since the Shomeret Yavam, the one who's waiting to take the Yibum, she is only Safek Ishto, she is not total wife of the Yavam. Therefore, you cannot claim over Miksei Milog. Why? Because the essence of the Miksei Milog is always here. So let's think together. What exactly the mindset here? The potential 50-50 that he does chalitza and release her. It's a potential that they're not staying married, and then she will take with her the Miksei Milog. So therefore, Beit Hillel come in and said, since it wasn't in effect a full marriage, and since those Miksei Milog, even it was a regular marriage, but anything happened, it's always stay with her belonging. Therefore, that part, Miksei Milog, should go to the inheritors of the father. Now, the Mishnah come and teach us a general term of property that belongs to the woman who is acting Yibum. knasa. They said if the Yavam already consummated the Yevamah, the Levirate marriage with her, harei I keishto lechol davar. The moment that happened, she's total wife of Shimon. We have more on that on Tractate Yevamot page 80. We have more on that in the next page, which is a crucial page 39. So we will discuss further. Ubilvad, it's only one condition, shetehe ktuba al nichsei ba'al rishon, which is the marriage contract will still be payable from the property of the first husband and not from the property of the Yavam, which means the Yavam is not commit himself that in a case he divorced her or passed away, only the shi'abud ktubah. So, for example, the Rambam explained that if it's any expenses involved with that, as you know, properties have taxes and all kind of expenses, so you go by the original late first husband. So the Gemara asks a question: Ma'ishna reisha de lo pligei, u'ma'ishna seifa de pligei. What's the difference between the first clause of the Mishnah and the last? The first part, we talk about the right of the Shomeret Yavam to keep those properties. You don't have a disputation, as you remember, between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, but even Beit Hillel agreed that she owns that property, and even lechatchila, at the first attempt, she'll have the full right to sell or to do whatever she wish with the inheritance, versus the last clause that you see the right of the inheritors of the Shomeret Yavam, the one who's waiting for her Yavam, that Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel disputed and said that the inheritors of the husband have part of her, meaning what's the real difference between the first and the last part? So here we have arba'a pshatim, 4 different avenues to understand it. Amar Ula. I first read and then we explain. Amar Ula, reisha de nafla kshi arusa, וסייפה דנפלה כשהיא נשואה. וכסבר אולה, זיקת ארוסה עושה ספק ארוסה. There is a concept of zika miderabanan, which means you have dargot, you have different level. According to Choshen Mishpat, it's not total husband and wife. For example, if she was engaged, so now she's below, she's safek harusa. If she's married, now she's safek nesua. Meaning, when she's fell to that act of yibum, while she's engaged, meaning, again, let's make sure we understand. Reuven and Shimon, they are brothers. Reuven act in a manner of engagement toward Tamar. He write a contract that he intend to marry her. So she engaged to him. Whatever it is, can be money, can be contract. And then, according to Beit Shammai, she can go ahead and sell properties that she have at that period of time. For example, if she inherited properties from her father, so therefore, this type of Shomeret Yavam, meaning after Reuven is no longer among the living, she is basically engaged to Reuven, and now Shimon is about to do Yibum, Levirate marriage, with her. So therefore, she is Safek Me'oreset. She is engaged but not fully engaged, because he is gone. So everyone agrees that she can go ahead and sell the property that she inherited from the father. The last part speak about different situation, that she already married to Reuven, and then after when she received the inheritance from her father, so therefore it's basically in a way part of the joint property, because she's married to Reuven. Now the law, when it's come to a married woman, that if is anything related to Miksei Milog, which is the fruits that come out, let's say they have a large field of oranges and they make a lot of money, and they have customers and vendors purchasing whatever, making orange juice or whatever it is, the fruits of her land, as we said several times, the husbands have rights over that since they're staying in marriage. Okay, so therefore if she is in a state of Shomeret Yavam, which means she's waiting for Shimon to marry her or release her, and that happened after she married to Reuven, so she is considering Safek Nesua, meaning she's the lowest level, she's not total married to Shimon, because it was an attempt, an intent, but it wasn't there. Beit Shammai come in and said, wait a second, guess what you have to do now? You have to split that property between the inheritors of Reuven and the inheritors of Tamar. So, and Ula hold that when you have an engagement zika, which means the first stage, which again it's lower, that's zika midrabanan. So make her, as we said, part safek arusa. So basically, you see here a situation, a like awkward situation, that she's not a full wife yet of Shimon, and therefore she's considering partially wife as far as the properties. So therefore, if it was Eusin, the Yavam is no right. So therefore, he said, in this type of case, you have a disputation, what to do. Because she is in a Zikah Midrabanan, goes to lower. 38b, Zikat Nesu'ah Osa Safek Nesu'ah, which is a Levirate bond formed with a married woman affords her a status equivalent to that of a woman for whom there is an uncertainty whether she is married, which means when her husband dies, the same level of relationship that existed with the first husband is created with the Yavam. However, since the new relationship exists only by virtue of a Levirate bond, it exists to a lower degree. Remember we said lower degree? So the right afforded to the Yavam are more limited than the first husband will have enjoyed. The right granted to the Yavam are equivalent to the rights of a husband in a case where there is uncertainty whether that level of relationship exists at all. One of the fascinating things, you see it from the Rishonim, is the whole concept of prenuptial agreement. The rabbis are thinking about it. But furthermore, you see here different categories of what the certain properties she retain regardless. Certain property he needs to return, the husband in a case of divorce needs to return the difference in evaluation. And Miksei Milog, something that retain a fruit, he can have a right as long as they are staying in that status. So therefore, Zikat Arusa Osa Safek Arusa, דאי סלקא דעתך ודאי ארוסה, מודים בית הלל שמוכרת ונותנת וקיים. The category of not sure yet, it's the safek, it's a quandary, because as we said, the engagement and the commitments was only in the state of uncertainty, we don't know. So therefore, the zikat arusa, the zikah bond, the levirate bond formed with the betrothed woman, afford her status equivalent to that of a woman of whom there is uncertainty whether she is betrothed, because if it entered to your mind the definitely betrothed woman, so therefore that Modim Beit Hillel agreed that she may sell or give away her property lechatchila, and that if she does the transfer is valid. So Vatnan, we learn in Tractate Yevamot, page 78, Naflu la nechasim mishnit arsa. You have a case that they engage, and in between she inherited property. Beit Shammai omrim timkor. Beit Shammai said that she have full rights. They're not married yet, so she can sell that inheritor in a property. ובית הלל אומרים לא תמכור, בית הלל say לכתחילה she shouldn't sell it. אלו ואלו מודיעים בית שמאי ובית הלל agree upon שאם מכרה ונתנה קיים, that if she already did it or she either sell or give it away, it's in effect, which means everyone agree that if they just engage, לבעל אין זכויות ממוניות, the husband doesn't have any monetary right. Now, the problem is rabbis are so smart. They figured out that the husband, the man, will have lack of interest if he see that type of behavior, that type of pattern. Because imagine a situation you're about to commit yourself for life with someone, and you feel like she's playing games, meaning all of a sudden you're let's say, for our understanding in the modern days, you're dating with a girl, you're dating for long time, and then you engage, and now she won a lottery, or she inherited something from her father or mother or whatever, right? And now she give it away to someone, or she's selling it and buying, or whatever it is, without your consent, without your zero involvement. And you guys are basically intent to live forever. How do you say it in America? Happy forever, right?
Ever after.
Happily ever after.
Happily ever after. So the rabbis figured out that he will lose interest in her because he feels that it's not total mechanism of joinship between the two. So therefore, El alav shma mina, zikat arusa osa safek arusa, and not clear arusa. זיקת נשואה עושה ספק נשואה. דאיסא גלתך ודאי נשואה. בית שמאי אומרים יחלוקו יורשי הבת עם יורשי האב. That's what we said. והתנא נפלו לנכסים שנישאת, אלו ואלו מודים. שהיא מכרה ונתנה, שהבעל מוציא מיד הלקוחות. אליו שמע מינה, זיקת נשואה עושה ספק נשואה. So you see, because it's ספק, because it's not clear, so they need to split. But anyway, both Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel agreed, that's the Choshen Mishpat, they agreed that Zikat Nesuah has the deen of Safek Nesuah. So in the Reisha you see that Arusa has no rights, and that's basically what Rashi said, that Arusa, that she is engaged, she have no right. Safek Arusa, so if it's even a question of the engagement, it's considering what? It's lo arusa or partially. So Beit Shammai said yachloku. Beit Hillel omrim chazaka adifa. So you have here Tosfot and Tosfot Yeshanim. So they said this is bechezkat mishpacha, which means that's part of the tribe, the family inheritance of the father. So therefore it should be there because it's yesh chazaka. They have some right, some strong connectedness to that property. According to Rashi, it's the question of Gdarim. How do you define it? Where exactly they institute the sages? So they said either Yachloku, they split, or Bechezkat Yoshea Av, it's go to the inheritors of the father. So Amar le Rabbah, ad mifle begufa, ולאחר מיתה לפלגו בחייה ולפירות, until Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel disputed in the last clause of the Mishnah in regards to who inherited those properties. If that Shomeret Yavam passed away, let them dispute it even she's alive, and all the outcome. So according to Beit Shammai, Yachloku. Why they should split? Because it's a fake Nesua. According to Beit Hillel, it's Bechezkat Isha. It belongs to her. So here you see a big difference between the first clause and the last clause, between if she is alive or she is no longer among the living. Maraba Idi v'Idi, both the first and the last. Reisha and the Seifa, the Naflak She'i Nesua, that she fell to Levirate marriage while she is already married. V'zikat Nesua, and because she have this zika bond of Nesua, osa safek Nesua. So she, because again and again, remember, Shimon did not yet marry her. He may marry, he may release her. And therefore, because it's all not clear, you call her safek nesua, meaning it's not clear that she is married. So therefore, reisha di'ihi kaima, havala ihi vadai, ve'inhu safek. The first part of the Mishnah, that the Shomeret Yavam dis Tamar, she is vadai, vadai meaning clear, safek, it's a quandary. So vadai, she is the one who owns that property, because it belongs to her with no doubt, versus the inheritors of the husband, which is the Yavam, they may be part of that, because it's not clear what's going to happen. So here you have Vadai, clear, and you have Safek, something that it's not clear. So therefore, Ein Safek, Motzi, Midei Vadai. So therefore, you have the uncertain claim, cannot extract property from one who has definite claim to it. And she, therefore, retains full possession of the property. Now we said Seifa Demeta, and the later part of the Mishnah that speak about the Shomeret Yavam Tamar, that she is no longer among the living. Halalu ba'u lirash, ve'alau ba'u lirash. The heir of the father come and want to inherit it, and the heir of the husband come to inherit. And therefore, Yachaloku, they should divide up the property, which means, since you have here a situation of safek, of a quandary, so as long as the Isha Kayemet, she is around, so it's Vada'it, it's clear, Rashi said. So therefore, when it's come to Miksei Milog, so the Keren, the property, the retain of the property is always her, regardless to her circumstance in life. When, because it's Safek Nesua, it's not clear if she's to be married to Shimon or not. That Safek lo motzi midei vadai, the uncertain cannot take something for something that is totally definite claim. And therefore, so far when she's alive, it's one thing. When she's passed, you don't have tfisa vada'it, you don't have something that is totally clear. So therefore Beit Shammai said they should divide it, and Beit Hillel said you have to go here between the father, the inheritor of the father, and inheritor of the potential to be maybe a husband. Now the Abaye come in and he challenged all this concept. He said, we study in Tractate Bava Batra, page 157, an issue of crisis. Meaning, if it was a house, the father and the husband is there, and something happened, earthquake, whatever it is, God forbid, and they're gone. Eitivei, Abaye, ulebeit Shammai en safek motzi midei vadai. According to Beit Shammai, an uncertain claim cannot extract property from one who has a definite claim to it. Here is a situation. Ve'atnan, Bava Batra, nafal habayit alav v'al aviv. If the house they live collapsed or upon a person and upon his father, alav ve'al morishav, upon him or upon those who with him stood to inherit, ve'hayu alav ktubat isha u'ba'al chov, and it was outstanding debt against the person from his wife, marriage contract, and from creditor, right? He owes. So therefore, Yoshea Av Omrim, here you have an issue. Why? Because the inheritors of the father said, Haben met rishon v'achar kach met av. The son passed first and the father passed second, which means the son has no right to inherit the father from the property, and you cannot take anything from that land. Uba'al chov omer, the creditor came in and said, no, ha'av met rishon v'achar kach met haben. The father is gone first and then the son, and therefore the son inherited that property, and I can collect my debt from that. Beit Shammai omrim yachloku. The Beit Shammai said that the inheritors of the father and the creditor should split the properties between them, which means the creditor will take half of the value of that property, and the other half, the inheritors will take. ובית הלל אומרים נכסים בחזקתן. And Beit Hillel said the property retains its previous ownership status, which is in the case of means that since the last possessor was the father, so the father's heir gained full rights to it. So now we juxtapose to our subject and we said V'ahacha Yorsheh ha'av vadai Uba'al chov safek. The people who inherit from the father is something that you're certain, because naturally it's Yerusha. It's fall in a normal term of inheritance. The one who's the creditor is uncertain, because the properties will not subjugate to that contract yet, which means v'ka'atei safek umotzi midei vadai. And you see here that Beit Shammai ruled that the property should be divided up. So it appears that we hold that one is uncertain claim can extract property from one who has definite claim to it. So Rashi said, you go by the Baal Chov, by the creditor. First, you go by the inheritors, and then you give to the creditors. Rashi said, I'm just reading you the vignette of Rashi, Yoshea Avadai, Muchzakin Sheba'in Mikoach Yerusha. Naturally, the children of the father inherited, and therefore, Vada'it, that's clear, they are his children, they are legitimate children, they are the inheritors. They should get. Shafilu Ha'av Met Rishon, even you tell me that the father in that collapsed house passed first, Nichsei Ben Mistama Noflim Lifnei Yorshim. The properties that belong to the son obviously go before those who inherited it. So meaning the creditor is only a later consequence of their inheritance. So the Gemara said, the Kasav Beit Shammai Shtar ha'omed ligbot kegavui damei. So I explained in my book, Rashi here said, kegavui damei, klomar gadol koach hashtar, which means the Rashi bothers if he's not gava before, if he's not collected in action. So what's the discussion here? So Rashi said here the koach hashtar, the power of that paper, that agreement, is that he can collect it, and it's not like all the other collection that you have a disputation or you have a discussion. If it's considering it's something that it's a fact, which means when you have this type of shtar chov, this type of credit proof letter, that it's considering as part of the creditor, and even the borrower carries them. So there is Gemarrah in Gittin, page 37, that elaborates on that, and is a Ktsot HaChoshen in Pei Gimel that elaborates. We just said that. So if you have here, it's called Safek Vesafek. You have, in a way, quandary within the quandary, because if the father passed first, those property belongs to the creditor and not belong to inheritors of the father. If the son passed first, the property belongs to inheritors of the father and not belong to the creditor. So now the Gemara bring a proof that the view of Beit Shammai that said shtar haomed li gabot kegavui damei, which is, they said, a debt recorded in a bill of debt that is awaiting collection, is though it's already collected, to the extent that the creditor is considered to be in possession of the debt. So the creditor is considered to be in possession of the property to the same extent as the father's heir, and consequently the property is divided between them. Umenat teimra, and how you prove it, ditnan. This is a source from Tractate Sota, page 24. Metu be'alehem ad shelo shatu. Let's just make sure that we all remember that. This is a book of Bamidbar, Parashat Naso. The Torah tells us if the husband, this is ancient time, but it's important to know, if the husband commonly suspected his wife for being unfaithful. So the Torah said that, again, in anthropomorphic language, in our language, God cares so much to have shalom bayis, to have peace in a house, that he said, let the Kohen take a parchment and write my name on that parchment, name of God, and combine it with the water, which obviously the name erased, which is a violation of Torah law. But here I allow you to do it. Ra'ui shmi shenichtav bikdusha, is befitting to my holy name that's written in the sanctity. God said, sheyimache al hamayim, to erase with the water, leashkin shlom bayit, in order to create peace between husband and wife. So basically, if she's free of blame, she come to Yerushalayim, the Kohen give it her the water in very short, and she drink it, and it's over, and it's fine. That's basically. Now, hypothetically speaking here, we back to our subject, and we said, you have a woman, the husband suspected her, and while they are in the process of doing this ritual to go and drink, etc., the husband passed. What do you do now as far as the property? Because the Torah said in book of Numbers, chapter 5, if the husband warned his wife, do not go with this man, okay? And he warned her, and she, against her husband's will, she went ahead with that man. So she needs to drink that water, and this water basically clarified, she drinking water carries the name of God, etc., etc., clarified her status. Another phase we should remember, that she have the right over her husband as long as she is faithful. If she commit adultery, she lost the ketubah. So therefore, since she is safek sota, since we don't know if she was faithful to her husband or not, so Beit Shammai omrim notlot ktubatan ve'inan shotot. Beit Shammai said they should take the ketubah and they do not need to drink the water. Why? because the husband is gone, and basically they married, and therefore later the Gemara explained that she need to drink that water as long as the husband is around. If not, they don't. ובית הלל אומרים או שותות או לא נוטלות כתובתן. Do you understand what בית הלל said here? בית הלל said either they drink, and if they survive they collect the marriage contract, or they do not drink and they cannot collect the marriage contract. Meaning, and all the husband's property passes to his heirs. Meaning, if you think about it, what they're basically saying here. Explain to me the view of Beit Hillel. They're saying, wait a second. He, meaning let's call names. Let's say Chaim and Rebecca, right? Chaim suspected Rebecca for being unfaithful. He is about to let her drink the water. He passed. They have children. The children, let's say, for our sake, is not getting along with her, right? Now Beit Hillel come in and said, here, Rebecca, you have a choice. Either you drink the water, it's clarified that everything is clean and nice, you can inherit it. If you refuse to drink the water, you cannot get anything from the property of your husband. That's Beit Hillel's view. So the Gemara challenged that and said, O shotot, what do you mean O shotot? Ve'evia ish et ishto amarachmana. The Torah said clearly in the book of Bamidbar, chapter 5, the husband bring the wife to the Kohen. So what is the havamina? What is the even thinking that or shotot, that Beit Hillel said that they have their choice? Veleika, the husband is gone. Ela mitoch shelo shotot lo notlot kubatam. Because they don't drink, they cannot have the ketubah. Okay, ve'ahacha de safeku. Now we compare it to our discussion. Because we don't know if the right of a ketubah or not, it's safek. Safek zenai, safek lo zenai. We don't know if it was an adultery or not. Veka'ate safek umotzi midei vadai. We don't know if it was uncertain, if she was faithful, she's not faithful. So you don't know if she was unfaithful, she lost the ketubah. If she was faithful, she received the ketubah. And now you tell me that something that is uncertain come out and coming and undermining the definite claim of the husband's hair. אלא שמע מינה, שטר העומד לגבות כגבות דמי. So you conclude that the Mishnah, that Beit Shammai hold, that the debt recorded in a bill of debt that is waiting collection is considered as though it's already collected, to the extent that the one who is on the money is considered to be in possession of the debt. It is due to this reason that she is empowered to be able to collect her marriage contract. לכן ספק וספק יחלוקו. So ve'abaye. So now we ask a question. You have here Rashi and Tosfot. Anyway, Abaye lot veimeha. So how about Abaye? Let him bring based on this Mishnah that basically Rashi said that the order is first it's the Seder Nashim and then Seder Nezikim. But Tosfot said V'abaye lot veimeha v'im tomar adraba tik shele lama notelet kol haktuba misafek. Why she collect the entire ketubah if it's uncertain? Tosfot asked. And now we turn the reverse order, and he said, "V'yesh lomar lefi shiba betanat bari, v'yirushim betanat safek." She come with a real ketubah. That's itchayvut. That's shtar. That's a contract. And you don't have a proof that she committed adultery. So therefore, she have a full right over the ketubah. It's bari, and that's a big chidush that you see that safek motzi midei vadai, that the all the hairs it's in a safek. They're not sure about this. So she have dilma ktubat isha shani mishum china. You can say that ktubat isha is different because it's a concept that's called china. China meaning desirability. What does that mean? So there's two interpretations. One, it means that the woman will be easy to take the ketubah, but there's another one basically they said in מסורת הש"ס, וכיוון שהוא יודעת שאפילו מספק נתאי כתובתה, משמשת לבעלה וילת חן בעיני בעלה. Since she knows that even it will be a turn of uncertainty, she still received the ketubah, so you know what it's like? I'm sorry to use it, but it's like treating the maintenance people here. If you are nice to them, if you show appreciation, if you show that you care for them, etc., etc., they do a better job. All right. So in that sense, it said the Gemara said "Velukte v'ktubah dematnitin." So here Rashi said when it's the banot yesh china. When she passed, you don't have this china. Lo pligei. So the Gemara said Beit Shammai did not dispute Beit Hillel in that sense. So the Gemara asked, is that correct? Velo? Is that true? Ve'aktani meta מה יעשה בכתובתה ובנכסים היוצאים עמה הכתובה שהשיא. בית שמאי אומרים יחלוקו יהושע בעל למשה האב ובתלמוד אומרים נכסים בחזקתן. הרי כאמר מתה מה יעשה בכתובתה ושבקה. So Tosfot Yom Tov said that it's temporarily, he didn't answer the question. נכסים הנכסים ויוצאים עמה, בית שמאי אומרים יחלוקו יהושע בעל למשה האב ובתלמוד אומרים נכסים בחזקתן. So it means that this is disputation only on this and not on the ketubah. אמר רבה שמתין דם מדייקה דקטני. יחלוק יהושע בעל למשה האב ולא קטן יהושע ומשה הבעל שמע מינה. So if we talk about ketubah, so it's in the property of Yosheav with Yoshe with the inheritors of the husband versus Miksei Milog, the Yosheav come and divided with Yosheabal, the heirs of the father divided with the heirs of the husband.
ויחם לשולוים מלאכי השולוים מלאכי